39 degrees Fahrenheit in the shop. Alright, the power supply came in today. Today's the 20th. It's supposed to have been here yesterday, but that's okay. Not a very good packing job. I'd have to look on the eBay pictures, but this was not pushed in like this before. It was rattling around, but I think it's just this cord here. But I'm going to have to look and see. And yeah, there's a tube loose in here. So it was bad packing. Very bad packing. So I'm going to have to open this up. And I took some pictures of it. You can see the corner of the box is all bashed up here. It's brutally cold in this shop, and I wasn't going to do a show and tell video today on this, but I have to document this. 5U4 was just hanging, was out of the socket. I took out the mounting screw that was in here that went to this so I can get the chassis out. On the inside there is a variac in there. You can see it. It's on long leads, so I'll be able to pull out the chassis out of the front after I remove a couple screws. And this is all Mickey Moused up here. Yeah. Whole variac is moving in there. So we got a screw here, a screw here. Now the cabinet was dinged up on the website, so I'm not worried about that. I can hammer that out in colder, warmer weather. So let me get this out. My hands are freezing here. It out of the case. The front panel was all banged in. Now that showed on the auction, so I had to take my big heavy pair of pliers and bend this all out so I can get this out, because it comes out from the front. And this is just static charge right here. Yeah, that's all static charge. Not much to it. You got a filter choke down here, electrolytic here, and a good sized power transformer. So I'd probably be able to up the current on this. Of course, it would be very dangerous, because, you know, the more modern ones would have safety flashing lights on it and so forth. Let's see. Polarity reversal. Well, that's good. Got to be careful, though. We don't need a polarity reversal, so I'd probably do away with that. You want positive coming out. You don't want to have this switched to negative here and positive here. So I probably wouldn't use that. I'd probably improve this light. And something was in here. The mounting screws held up on the front here, and the variac is loose as a goose and hardwired into the chassis. Get a little light on the subject here. Not a lot to it. Now, this is a show and tell, and this is what I was going to do. Let's see what that is. Looks like a label of some kind. Very, very simple power supply, really. Lots of room for modifications. But the case I have to hammer it more. I pulled it out with the lineman pliers. It was all bent in here. It looks like they played football with this thing. I found an Allen wrench that'll fit that. Loose as a goose here. So, yeah, I have a few Allen wrenches here. So, we will put that over here. And we'll remove the first nut, because it's not the main mounting nut. Remove this. And we'll put that in here. I got this from my son Tommy. He don't need it. He bought it at Walmart. It's a lizard cam. It's not bad. It's 640 by 480. But it has a very limited focus range. So, let's get this out. I'll be right back. Okay, you can see where I pretty well straightened it out. Not perfectly. But I got to go over it a little bit more. I got some here that I got to straighten out, because that front panel fits very flush right in here, and it uses 6 self-tapping screws. Then of course I got to push up this. That's not a big deal. So we'll get this off the crowded bench. And let's see what we've got for a variac here. Gotta be careful. We don't want to take these wires off. We don't want to have them break off, I should say. So when I make a video, I document it with the video. I'm assuming the variac works. But again, it's hardwired into the chassis. And you can see by this, it's pretty bent up. So I'm going to need to straighten that out. And what I will probably do is to remove these meters. Everything's loose. All the screws are loose in there. That one's tight. We won't do that. This is a show and tell video, but we're going to take it down and clean it up good. And we'll see what this value of this electrolytic is and so forth. We'll do all that. Ooh, we got another nut, but I don't know. Something fell off of it. And it wasn't the stuff I took off. So, alright, we'll put I got one of those magnetic trays here. We'll set it up there with the other screws that I took out of it. And this is the back mounting. Transformer is good size, and that's what I was concerned with. So I should be able to up the current on this, but I'm not worried about it at this time. I'm worried about getting this thing straightened out. So, I guess we got a neon bulb here. It appears to be a neon. We don't know how bright it is, but I would like to have that red. That's probably an orange. So, it's wired up into here. I guess that's factory. I don't know. Now, that don't look like factory. Could it be that somebody modified this thing? Somebody did something here. The black lead has been cut and a piece of heat shrink over it. Now, when this thing was made, I don't think the heat shrink was invented. So I don't like the looks of this. I don't like the looks of this. Now, on the auction, the meter was up on 200, and he had a digital meter on it connected here, and it was showing 200. So it's putting out at least 200 volts. So I would probably say it does work, but what this is, I don't know. It appears to be 2 leads in case. I don't think it's factory. It don't look like factory to me, and neither is this. There's a fuse here. Why a white wire? I don't know. What the hell did they do? Fuse the neutral? That's the white wire going in here. There's 2 blacks. They got the damn neutral fused. It's a 3-prong plug. Here it is here. The cord is in very good shape. It's a 3-prong plug, grounded cord. There's no green wire. So that's got to be replaced. That's ass backwards. That black wire is the hot. And it's grounded to the chassis right here. That don't look right. But that does look factory. This does not. This does not. There's a screw missing here, which I just noticed. There's no documentation on this whatsoever. And they also got black wire here. Maybe because the polarity can be reversed, so they probably didn't use a red and black wire on the binding post. In other words, the red binding is supposed to be red wire. But because you've got this polarity reversal here, it don't matter. Okay? And let's see, they got a X1 and X10. It's relatively simple, but what bothers me is there might have been some modifications on this. Now, your output goes to the polarity switch, which is right here. We can get a little more light on that. Okay? We'll have to do some tracing out on this. And then we got the ×1 and ×10. And then, of course, your on and off power switch. But this is what I like about vintage equipment. You can work on it. This stuff I can work on. The label is very brittle, and it says filament transformer. It's a filament transformer, so that might not be a choke on the other side of the chassis. So that is a filament transformer. This power transformer is a good size. Here's where the 5U4 came out of. So that shows you that this thing has been, make sure that the keyway's still there, been thrown around. Now there's only one tube, 5U4, that's all you need, and you got a high resistance probably several hundred megohms in order to read on your meter. And the electrolytic, let's get a rag and clean it up a little bit. There's not much to this, I'll tell you right now, and that's the way I like things. When I was going to build a power supply, basically that's what I was going to do. Just vary the input voltage. We're going to check this transformer label out here in a minute. And we'll just give it a quick wipe down now. Nothing special. I want to read that electrolytic if I can. 12 microfarad. I'm reading upside down here. 12 microfarad. We don't know how many volts it is. So, needless to say, I don't see any bulging at this end here. This is the positive end here. Of course, that's the negative end there. So, but that don't mean anything. It still has to be replaced. But it's definitely original. You can see the original clamp here. This is your variac. And let's see if we can get some. Sorry about the movement, but I'm only one person here. Normally I'd use my JVC. I can get a lot better close-up, but this was a show and tell. When it comes to actually working on it, that would be a little different story. But I'm leaving this on a little bit so it can be identified maybe. And also the leads, the red and white go here, and it looks like two whites, but you know my eyes. In case I don't get that on, I lost my pointer. I've got a pointer that's never gets lost, my good old finger. PC8412 Stancor, okay? $400 volts on each side of the center tap, right here. 200 milliamps. Okay, so this has got possibilities. This is putting out 25 milliamps. I should have no problem getting it to put out a maximum of maybe, let's say, 150 mils at the most, DC. You want to have a 50 volt leeway. So this will put out, this transformer is good for 200 milliamps. So if we have we can adjust this. We'll have to go through the circuit and see where the current limiting is, and it's probably just a resistor. I don't think it's this, but it might be. It might be. I don't know. Alright. We gotta, all this stuff's got to be fixed up and tightened up and whatever. What do we got for a fuse in here? What's it supposed to be? It doesn't say. Hope it ain't a 30 ampere. It's a slow blow. And without my microscope eye lobe, I can't tell, but let me see if I can read it. Close as I can read that, it's 3 amps, 3 AG, 125 volts. I read it with my little eye lobe here, so 3 amps sounds a little high. It does. But you've got a good size transformer here. So the inductance when you first plug it in is going to give a good surge. Considering the size of this transformer, so if you put like a 1 amp fuse in here, the act of turning it on, initially, the very first turn on, could blow the fuse. So it appears to be a 3 amp. Definitely a slow blow, you can tell by the spring inside. Hey, I looked at it again, it is definitely a 3 amp. That doesn't mean that's what goes in here, there's no markings. There's no information on this whatsoever. But anyways, I wouldn't attempt to power this up, although it was powered up. The auction, the guy that was selling it said he wasn't getting any current out of it. He put a voltmeter on the output terminals. Of course you're not going to get any current out of it because you're not drawing anything. Your digital voltmeter, DVM, is not going to draw any current to show up on the amp meter here, milliamp meter. So I wasn't concerned about that. The main thing is it was putting out voltage, which tells me the power transformer is good. So I'll move this over. So that's a filament transformer, and it's loose as a goose also. I don't think all this was done in shipping. This is your milliamp meter. I can't read that resistance. I don't want to stress it too much. It doesn't even look like that's factory. It looks like it's been twisted and tacked, similar to the kind of work I do. So, as you can see, it's milliamps. So, I could probably do away with this polarity reversing switch, make sure that it's always putting out positive and always putting out negative here. Do away with this and convert this over to a power supply that will put out the 25 mils that it is rated for here, and then when you switch it to a higher current, if it can be done, and I have to look into the circuit, and then have this go to 250 mils. That's more than enough. But we're trying to get it so we got the readings right. In other words, $250 mils is actually more than the transformer's rated, so we can't really do 150 mils, because then I'd have to add another scale in here, because the full scale here is 25. Alright, so in other words, if I wanted to put out 150 mils max, then I would be right here on the high, if I convert it so it'll put out more current, so I can power a radio that, like an All-American 5, for instance. Okay? But the max would be 250, but we don't want to go there. Okay? So we would have to have some kind of an over-limit circuit protection, and I'm no Mr. Carlson, so I can't do that. Okay? Basically, this thing here is a basic, simple power supply, and that's what I was going to build for my radio projects. No voltage regulation, nothing complex, no solid state other than a solid state rectifier, but we don't have to worry about that because we got a 5U4. I've got enough 5U4s in case this is no good. We place the electrolytic, that we do, and we find out, you know what, I don't think that's a high resistance. That looks like wire on there. You guys might have already spotted that. So I don't know if that's homemade or what, because I don't have any information. It goes to one lug of the milliamp meter, and there's a red wire coming down at the bottom here, and another wire coming down here. So I'm not sure what this is. I thought it was a high resistance resistor. Low wattage, high resistance, and they're long because they can handle a lot of voltage. But that's not the case. This might have been one, and somebody maybe modified it. Maybe they made it into an inductor. Or a very low resistance using wire. I don't know. But that don't look original. Okay, so there's some work I got to do on this. And voltage checks on this transformer. I got to find out why that thing is, there's two leads coming out of the bottom here that's got a big hunk of heat shrink on it. So, alright. So, folks, it's very, very cold in here. I wasn't going to even make this video today, but I had to open it up, mainly because if there's any physical damage, if the meters were broken, I would get back to the seller and complain about it. I would probably, when I give them feedback, I'll probably say, not enough packing. That would probably be the only thing. It's sold, he didn't know the condition of it, although we had this reading 200 volts at a meter here, but you didn't see it in that first picture. There's another picture on that auction where you could see the digital meter that he had. The leads were connected here, and the meter was still reading 200. So it was reading first 200 with nothing on it. So I thought maybe the meter was stuck, but no, it showed 200 on his digital meter. And I'm tempted to power this up. You know what? I'm going to put this through the dim bulb. Yes, you always use a dim bulb. Okay, here's my dim bulb. We got it plugged in. The power supply is off right now. We got our bypass switch, but the bypass is not turned on. In other words, it's going to be going through the bulb. We got a 5U4 that's going to take a little while to warm up. I don't know where this is set. I'm sure it's probably set on the 200 volts where he had it. We'll find out. So here we go. It just glowed a little bit. And we already got voltage out of here. And the dim bulb just glowed a little bit. I don't know if it showed on camera. I might not have been pointing to it. And the 5U4 is just barely lit, and the reason it's just barely lit with the dim bulb. I got to find out how much voltage this is putting out, but I'm not going to touch this variac because it's open, it's dangerous. But I'm going to put my meter, I'm going to shut the camera off for now. I'm going to put my meter on here, and we're going to turn this off first. Goes down pretty quick. And that's 12 microfarads. You could probably go to 40. Depends on what the rating is. If this is a 500 volt cap, I don't have a 500. I have 450. But anyways, let me get my meter over here. I'll be right back. So I've got my meter set up here. I'm going to turn this on now. She's 243 volts. That's pretty darn close. Let's see what the reverse is. Yeah. 244.8, we reversed it, but the meter itself did not reverse. But it's reversed now. I just pushed the reverse button. So this is positive and this is negative. You can see the negative line here. Now we switch this and the needle don't change. Now we're back on positive 245.6. And the guy says he didn't get any current out of it. Of course you're not going to, because you're not drawing any current. This don't amount to anything for drawing current. However, if you put a load on this, that should work. But I'm not about to do that now. This power light isn't even coming on, so that's got to be replaced. Now, let me see what this does. That don't change anything. So times 10. I know the light isn't very good here. Milliamps times 10. Okay. So times 10. Maybe it's already set up for more than 25 mils. I won't know that until I put a load on it. I'm not about to do that. Now, what I'm going to try to do, and I shouldn't do this, is to bypass this. Light. Let me get down here. Sorry about all the movement. 280 volts. 281 volts. So that's a little off. $282.1. We reversed the polarity. See that? See that right there, that little minus sign? Now we put it back on the proper polarity. 282 volts. So, this is just a milliamp limit, and I'm going to have to experiment with this. We're going to put a load on this when I probably replace the electrolytic. We're going to shut this off now. Always return your dim bulb to the dim bulbs. In other words, turn your bypass off. You know, don't leave your bypass on if you got a dim bulb, because next time you plug it in, you could have a disaster. And the bulb is ice cold. So, let's see what the electrolytic is. Ice cold. Transformer ice cold. Ice cold. 5U4 lukewarm. If you keep your hand on it, the top is pretty hot. So we're not drawing anything. It's just basically putting out the 280 volts, and we did not adjust this. Now it's unplugged, so I'm okay. You're not going to get any warmth on this because we're not drawing any current. Okay, so you got a good size. You can see that we're still holding voltage, very little though. So the electrolytic, unless it has a bleeder in it, the electrolytic is probably needs to be replaced. So with that, I guess we're going to call this your entertainment for today, folks.